Welcome to the Butterfly Tumblr Radio channel. Are you ready to start today's story? Let's get started. Imagine stepping into a classroom where all sound suddenly ceases. As a goddess-like figure makes her entrance. She possesses not only heart-stirring beauty but also a smile that can ignite your soul. Yet, this mysterious woman named Ava harbors a secret that could turn your world upside down. In what seems like an ordinary college classroom, Ethan unexpectedly crosses paths with Ava. And a friendship and love story full of sparks is about to unfold. But as the truth gradually emerges, their relationship faces an unprecedented trial. Are you ready? Join me as we delve into this story brimming with passion, wisdom and the struggles of human nature here. Every turn may alter their destiny, and every choice will test their understanding of love and trust. When she entered the room, there was the instant silence that characterized Professor Howard's class before his arrival. He was a huge hairy man. And although he was a great teacher, funny, kind, he had a certain don't mess with this man air about him. He wasn't there yet. And the basketball players in the back row were talking to each other too loudly in tones, trying to impress his friends and girls. When I looked around at the sudden silence, thinking that Howard had arrived, it was something else. She was tall, almost 6 feet. I guessed. With long dark hair tinged with pink that hung behind her in soft, heavy waves. Her face could easily launch the legendary thousands of ships. Her jeans were strategically torn, revealing the smooth tan skin of her legs. From the inside, she was wearing a t-shirt that said Thunderbolts and Lightning. Very, very frightening on the front. It was signed Galileo and featured an image of the astronomer. I loved the shirt, and what was inside was great God. She was amazing. The jeans were also perfect. She looked around the room, and one of the idiots in the back row made a comment. "Hey cutie, we have a chair back here." The look she gave him made him freeze mid-sentence. And she walked towards the front to me. I always sat in the front to avoid distractions. The chair next to me was empty. And the goddess took off her backpack, carefully placed it on the floor and sat down. As I passed by, I smelled the subtle scent of her perfume. It was Creed Windy Flowers. I knew this smell because my sister wore it. And I knew how much it cost when buying a gift. She looked at me, and the dark tan of her skin lit up with a brilliant, dazzling smile. "Hi, I'm Donovan," she said. "Don't call me Donna," I tried to speak. But all that came out of my paralyzed vocal cords was a stupid grunt. She laughed. I swallowed my saliva and tried again. "No, I won't," I said. "My name is Ethan." She laughed, extended her hand, and her long, slender, cool fingers squeezed mine. I just couldn't believe how well my day had turned out. Professor Howard walked in at that moment, and she whispered, "Ethan, I need that hand to take notes." I suddenly realized that I was still holding her hand. And it was terribly embarrassing. Then suddenly fun as we laughed together. Howard glanced at us as he put his bag down. "Is everything okay, Ethan?" "I've calmed down, yes. Everything is fine." He looked at Ava and did a double take. "Yes. I see that you are good." He started his lecture. And we started a little argument. It was a Western civilization class. And there were about a dozen of us having fun in Howard's classes. To my surprise, Ava joined us and was quick. She knew what she was thinking and wasn't shy about saying it. She was using her iPad to take notes. And I saw that she was recording the lecture. We were putting our things away after class. And she said, "Ethan, aren't you taking notes?" "No. I'm listening." "You never take notes." "No. I don't really need them." "Ava, what's your GPA?" she asked. I laughed. "Gee, you really ask a lot of questions, Ava. Is there any reason you need to know my GPA?" She blushed a little and said, "I just transferred here and I'm looking for study buddies." "It's 384. I said. "Why did you get a B?" she asked. It was my turn to be embarrassed. "Well, I hate to tell you this, but it was in human sexuality." "How did you know?" "It was just one. I did the math," she said. Then laughed. I joined her after a minute. Then she took my hand and led me out. "Stay with me, Tiger," she said. "We will work on this sexuality. I'm really good at it. I could easily believe that. She was the epitome of sexuality and sensuality. Screaming in Fu-Hai neon letters, I am a goddess. Where are we going? She asked. Well, this is my last lesson, I said. I was going to the student union to play ping pong. Every semester there are table tennis tournaments. And I play. Are you okay? She asked. I haven't lost a game in 7 years, I said. You play? She said yes. However, over the past 7 years, I have often played up. Let's go. I will be part of your support along the way. I learned that her last name was Mace. That her father was some important person at the university. That he had a good humanities department. And that they had moved from San Diego, where she grew up. Have you lived here all your life? She asked. I was born in Portland, but we moved here when I was about 2 years old. My father works for Raytheon Missile Systems. What is your main profession? She asked. This is electronic engineering. I have a higher education in philosophy, with my first dream being human sexuality shattered. Engineering seemed like the only choice. She was laughing. You have a great sense of humor. She leaned over and whispered confidentially. You're hot too. I was taken aback by this and desperately searched for some witty remark. She saved me. I'm a biochemistry major. I want to do drug research. Well, that sounds interesting and I'm sure you can do it. I said. Tell me why you don't take notes. Well, I have a very good memory. I tried taking notes, but it just distracted me from the lecture. And I'm better off just listening. If there are things like lists or terms, I get them. But the system doesn't seem to work for me. Will you study with me? She asked. I will do whatever you let me do to you, I assured her. She smiled at me adoringly. And I decided that if she needed to kill someone, I would be her liaison. I knew the other players in the tournament quite well. We all played and joked together. I think they were a little shocked when I walked in with Ava on my arm. I introduced her to everyone, and we played to warm me up. She was a very good player. I figured she could beat most of the guys in the tournament. She used a shallow grip, and I used a grip I learned from the Chinese roommate I once had. She made me sweat and it was time for my first game. I won easily, and we had a drink and watched other games. CIA Langford asked Ava if she wanted to play a game, and I watched as Ava destroyed it in the second round. I met my friend Liam, who was the second best player of the tournament. It was a shame actually, because he probably would have made it to the final if he had been lucky in the draw. It was close as always when I played him, but I won. As always, the third game was pretty easy, and I won the 100 prize. Ava came over and kissed me on the cheek. Hey, now you can afford to invite me to dinner, she said. I'd love to take this lady out to dinner, I said. What time and where would you like me to pick you up? She gave me her details, and we agreed to have lunch at 7:00, which meant I would pick her up at 6:30. She kissed my cheek again and disappeared, the faint scent of wind flowers being the only reminder she left behind. I went home, and in a day, I could not think of anything except this glorious woman. Girl sorceress. I had no idea why she chose me, but apparently she did. I was in a complete failure. I knew I looked normal, and I never had problems dating. I was tall, so even if I was as tall as she was, it wouldn't have been a problem. I've been involved in sports since the 8th grade. I was lifting heavy weights, working out my muscles, and maybe she liked it anyway. I was seriously amazed and felt like the king of the world. She was gorgeous in school clothes, but for the occasion she was simply stunning. She wore a cream and brown off-shoulder sweater dress that crossed the line of her amazing breasts, highlighting her amazing body and showing off her round ass. What an ass that was! God, it was driving me crazy. I wanted to follow her just to look at it. She knew what she looked like, but she wasn't as vain as most of the beautiful women I know. But she still showed what she had. Although I didn't know anyone who looked like her. I helped her sit up. I had one of the new Ford Broncos, a black diamond with a Sasquatch package. It was a little tall, and I could get a good look at about a mile of incredible tanned, muscular legs. She settled down, and I walked around her and climbed inside. Okay. She said, "Do you have a job, Ethan? How did you allow yourself to do this no work?" I said I had everything ready, but my father intervened. "I told you he works at Raytheon, and is a big deal there. He told me he wanted me to focus on my education and be a kid. He offered me any car I wanted within reason. And that was what I wanted, to roam the desert. And this baby is the ticket. He also pays my rent and gives me money. Again, within reason. I like being a child." I patted the dashboard and knew, well, I don't actually have a job, but I get paid for. I attend social events with my dad. I'm kind of a housewife and get paid well. Oh. Your mom doesn't like to talk. I said I have no idea. She said I haven't seen her for about 10 years. Oh. Sorry, I said, I guess I got involved in it. She was laughing. You couldn't have known. My mom and dad are divorced. I said I lived with my mom until last year. But my dad is still around and I see him often. They seem to go their separate ways. They are not enemies or anything like that. Where do you live now? She asked. I have an apartment and a roommate, Max. He's a computer geek. He's a good guy. Just a little clumsy. I knew that she should live with her father because I had picked her up in a good home. And it was not a place where a student could live alone. I took her to the grill in Henda del Sa. I had reservations and we arrived on time. Ava. Are you old enough to drink? I asked. She giggled. Yes. I'm 23. What about you? Yes, 24, I said. The food was great and the company even better. I should have asked Ava. Are we just going to be study friends? Or can I take you on a date? She took my hand and squeezed it. No boyfriend. Are you applying for this position? I laughed. Hell yes, I mean, God, Ava, who wouldn't? She smiled and blushed a little. This is very nice. I would like to go on dates with you and be friends from school. But I'm not ready for a serious relationship. You know, I'm 23 and about to finish my studies. Going to grad school. Starting a career before I was ready for something like that. Do you understand? I mean, are you okay with this? Yes. I said I kind of have the same plans. When I took her home, I received my first kiss. I remembered it for the rest of my life. I was sure I saw her every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in Howard's classes. And she always made an effort to sit with me. We met at my apartment to study on Thursdays and usually went on dates on Friday and Saturday nights. From time to time on one of the weekend evenings. She had to attend some university events with her father. I wondered what they were like. But since I wasn't in that circle, I never knew. I met her father. And although I liked him enough and he seemed to treat me well, I knew when I first met him that we would never be close. He was one of those guys who was impressed by his own accomplishments. Everyone called him Dr. Mace or just Mace. And he was pompous and pretentious. I constantly wondered how such a smug jerk raised a daughter like Ava in the first place. She seemed to love him and get along with him. And he and I put up with each other. She was sometimes difficult to read. We spent quite a lot of time together. But I really knew very little about how she spent her time when we weren't together. It bothered me a little, but when we were together, she was completely devoted to me. When she focused on me, she had an approach that made me feel like I was the only person on earth. There was very little conversation between us about who exactly we were. Were we boyfriend and girlfriend? Were we just friends hanging out? Or was there something more? Everyone who knew both of us seemed to be under the impression that we were a couple. But I was curious, so I spoke up about it. Ava, are you my girlfriend? I asked one day in the car on the way home from the movies. Do you want me to be? She asked. I'm out of my mind. Of course, yes. Well, you have to ask people if you want to know something. I think I just did. No, you didn't, she insisted. You asked me if that was true. If you want me to be your girlfriend, you have to ask me to be your girlfriend. Ava, will you be my girlfriend? She placed her hand in my free hand. I thought I already was, she said, giving me a sidelong glance. My God, I had to laugh. You are the most infuriating person, she giggled. Yes. You know what a relationship is, right? I asked. When you're talking and suddenly find yourself sighing with regret. I mean, you still love them and all. But they just said something so crazy that you regret knowing them. Then they giggle like crazy gremlin. And think about the next totally weird thing they'll say when you finally respond with a clap. You're crazy, I said. There is something seriously wrong with you. But since I have you in the car, it gives me the opportunity to ask you again. Do you want to be my girlfriend, Ava? Oh yes, can I? I nodded. It's official. What are we going to do now that it's official? She asked. Whatever we want, I said. Can I choose anything? She asked. Your wish is my law. I replied. Okay, how long have we known each other? Ethan, years, I said. She was laughing. No, really. 4 months and 19 days, I said. Wow, Ethan. That's impressive, she said. I want to spend the night with you. Are you serious? She gave me one of her glances, raising one eyebrow. You haven't even thought about it. Look at me. I am cute. I had to laugh. Yes. I know you're more than sweet, Ava. You are the hottest woman I have ever seen. Hell. Yeah, I thought about it. God. I don't think about anything else. I didn't know you'd want to go there right now. Listen, ignorant, what the hell am I supposed to do? I spend most of my time with you. I kiss you every time you take me home, Lord Ethan. I was already starting to think that you are of the wrong orientation. I laughed. Well, I don't. You're unlike any girl I've ever met, Ava. I was going to wait however long it took you. You're special to me and I didn't do it. I don't want to do anything to put pressure on you or scare you away. That's so cute, she said. You won't scare me away. I think you're special too. That's why I want to spend the night with you. I think I love you, Ethan. I am not a woman of easy virtue. I was stunned. Jesus. Did she think she loved me well? I was sure that I loved her, and at that moment, I felt like the happiest guy on the planet. Take me home, she said. I need to pack my things and tell Dad. Is it true? Are you going to tell him you'll spend the night with me? No, I won't talk specifically about you. Although he will know I'll get in your car. I'm a grown woman. I don't need to tell him everything I do. But I do need to tell him that I won't be home. It's just respect. Yes, I agree, I said. Will he be angry with me? I have no idea, she said. I don't care. What about you? Well, I don't want to get kicked out or anything. She was laughing. He won't be. I didn't want to go in and find out how angry he was. So I stayed in the Bronco while she ran away. It took her about 15 minutes. I took out my phone and played Van Halen's When It's Love. Ava walked out with her bag, threw it in the back seat, and closed the door as the synth ended. Eddie Van Halen hit his guitar, and Sammy Hagar started singing Oh My God. This is my favorite, she said, reaching out and turning up the volume. We sang along to these classics, and she sang her sweet little voice. The perfect counterpoint. Sing with me, she demanded. I wasn't a singer, but I tried my best. We pulled into the driveway and let the song play. When it was over, tears came to her eyes. This is our song, she said. When It's Love, I asked. What do you think? Yes. How do you know this is love? It's just what you feel together, I said. She laughed. I think that's the answer. She leaned forward, and her huge eyes were so close that it was difficult to focus. Do you feel it? She whispered. I kissed her. I took my bag and headed up. Max was at home playing on his PS5. She screamed when she saw him playing the new game. Fortnite. How did you get it? She asked. I have sources, he said. She sat next to him and watched as I put her bag in my bedroom. I opened 2 zippers and joined them. They became friends, and with her, Max lost his usual paralysis in dealing with women. He actually talked to her, which was rare for him. I need to run to the grocery store, I said. Do you want to come or stay? Ava, stay, she said. Max can let me play. Do you need anything, Max? She asked. No, I'm fine. I ran, and when I came back, Ava was playing and giving him instructions. I smiled and started eating dinner. I could hear them as I worked, arguing like little children about what to do next. I was almost finished when she came into the kitchen. Smells delicious, she said. What can I do? Pour some wine, I told her. The bottle is breathing there. Yell at Max and tell him 5 minutes, she let him know. He always needed 5 more minutes. But I could hear him saving the game. He listened to Ava. We ate. And Max gradually realized that Ava was staying. When the realization fully dawned on him, he felt a little uneasy and told us that he was going to the local gaming club after this. I'll go to a bez, he said. We'll probably play all night after all. He had some social skills. Ava and I relaxed on the couch and watched a horror movie. We spent this night together. She was a goddess. I have never seen a more beautiful, sexy, seductive woman. I am a lot of beautiful women. But no one likes Ava. She was younger, healthier. But at the same time she simply radiated sensuality. I had no idea that I would ever have the chance to be with someone like her. What, she asked. God, Ava, you're so beautiful. Baby, stop it, you're embarrassing me, she said. I just think you have it all. You could be with anyone, I mean anyone. You can make millions just from your looks. She laughed. Thanks. But I'm not interested in just anyone. And I'm never going to use my looks to make money. I want to be loved for myself, not for my looks. She held out her hands to me. I knelt down next to her. I know what you mean. I only want you to believe me. I love you for who you are. You are smart, funny, caring, warm. But you are also the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. I love every part of you. We rarely parted. She didn't live with me directly. She still left things at her dad's and spent time there. But most of her clothes and personal items now took up space in my closet drawers and bathroom. She loved Max as much as I did. But I felt like we were getting in his way. And he felt the same way. I talked to my father and told him I wanted another place. You are sure, he asked. I'm sure, I said. Ava lives with me basically. And we are embarrassing Max. He met Ava and fell in love with her. Can you wait a week, he asked. What will happen in a week, I said. Well, you know that I own a rental apartment in Playa Mesodada. Yes, but what about her? The couple who rented it are moving to Seattle. It's available next week. Let's set up a meeting. And we can take Ava there to see if she likes it. Hey, am I finally chopped, I asked. He laughed. Look, boy, we both know it's women who matter. You'd live in a tent with her. Sleep in the rain if she asked. I had to laugh. When did you become so smart? 5 years ago. You were dumb as a plug, he laughed. I'm still dumb as hell. Ask your mother. I know a thing or two, Dad. How much does it cost to rent this place? I asked. You'll probably have to pay a lot for this. Won't it cause you financial difficulties? It's none of your business, he said seriously. Ethan, I'm fine. You will inherit peace when I die. You and your sister will get rich. I told you that. I want you to focus on education. Once you get your degrees and find a job, you'll start paying for yourself. It's my job to give you a start in life. I am your father. Don't think I'm not grateful. I told him I'm grateful. It's just don't worry about it. Just don't kill me to inherit. I laughed. I don't know of any assassins yet. I talked to Ava and told her I was thinking about moving. Where? She asked. I told her I don't think I know where it is. She said I had time to give. I couldn't go. I wrote to my dad. And he agreed with the people who rented the house so that we could go look. As we drove I saw her looking back. Jesus, Ethan, these are damn good places. Well, I hope you like it. I said. It will definitely be different from my apartment. First of all, there will be no Max. She giggled. Poor Max. He loses both his playmates and his roommate. He will feel relieved, I said. He can sit in his boxes and have 3-day-old pizza boxes with 2 slices of pizza to snack on. We pulled up and her eyes widened. Dad was already there. He came up and opened the door for her. Hi, dear. They are not here. So we can just come in and look around. Oh my God. Oliver, is this the place? She was a little incredulous. He grinned. Yes. I bought this property about 20 years ago and got it for next to nothing. 5 years later, I was sitting on a gold mine. I sold the lots and used the money to build this place. I thought I would live here. But I got the opportunity to buy my own place and I've been renting it out ever since. We walked to the door, and Dad opened it with his key. Stepping aside so we could enter, it was impressive. And I heard Ava gasp as she sucked it in. Oliver. Are you kidding me? He chuckled. No, of course not. The furniture belongs to them. So you will have to buy your own. How can we afford it? She wondered. Mother Ethan took care of it, Dad told her. She is engaged in the import and export of furniture. She had been planning his marriage for many years. I happen to know that she has things in storage. Things that she purchased, and she always planned for him to have them. But we are not getting married. Her voice trailed off. I know, but will you live together or not? She looked at me helplessly. Not really, Oliver. I still live with my father. I mean, yeah. We kind of live together. But I'm a hell of a long way from getting married or committing like that. And I think Ethan is too. I have an idea, I said. Why shouldn't we worry about this? I'm not going to worry about us living together. And I'm not asking for any commitment. Mum doesn't care. It won't be any different from what we have now. Except Max won't be there, and that's a lot more. Ava said, giving me one of his dazzling smiles. I like the way you think. I'll look around. Give us a tour, Oliver. She said. He did. I kind of knew the layout. I was there when Dad built the house. But Ava couldn't walk past the house. I can't believe it, Ethan, she said on the way home. Dad's space on the first floor would fit twice as big. Right, I said. Does this scare you? I guess so. I mean, it's cool that Oliver even thought about it. But damn, we drove up and talked to my mother. And she took us to a warehouse. That was incredible. There was a bunch of stuff under the blanket. And when she started to pull the blanket off, Ava was over the moon. Lord Catherine. Where did you get all this? Mom laughed. Mostly South America. Some are from Africa and Asia. And a few from Eastern Europe. It's not as expensive as you might think. I've been going to shows for years. And if I see something that I think is unique and special, I take it. It's not all yours. Part of it belongs to Toyn. Well, I like it, Ava said. Mom hugged me. Ethan, will you trust me to decorate this place? She did this kind of stuff professionally, so yeah. You know more about this than me or Ava, I said. A triumphant smile spread on her face. Okay. Then it's decided. The next week the tenants left. And my mother went to work a week later. She told me that everything was ready. We met her and Dad for dinner. And they took us to evaluate what they had done. Mom and Dad were not hostile to each other. They were actually friends. And I always thought they loved each other. They just had different lives. It was nice to see them together after a while. Toyn appeared with champagne. Hey sis. I walked over to hug her. She and Donovan were friends and hung out together for a while. Hello, Barb. That's what she called me since she was very little. I thought we should celebrate and have a housewarming party. Mom came over with champagne glasses. And we made a toast. The place looked great. The furniture was a little sparse. But I figured we'd fill it up as soon as we found the time and money. Of course it was functional. Father Ava came and had an absolutely disgusting dish for our dinner table. I pretended to admire it, but damn. The thought of eating next to a stalking tiger that looked like it was about to pounce on me was too much. I appreciate this gesture. He got up. And enough that Ava took him on a tour. And I think he was impressed despite himself. Max borrowed his dad's truck and trailer and drove up with our boxes of stuff. Even Dr. Mot his hands dirty, helping us carry boxes to their respective rooms. We put everything roughly where it needed to be. And everyone left, leaving Ava and me a little awkward. Completely alone in our new place. It didn't last long. Will you take a shower with me? She asked. I was always ready for this. Our agreement has not changed. 6 nights out of 7 Ava was with me every day. When classes ended we were together. About once a week. She spent the night with her father. We both applied and were accepted into graduate school and were both in our final semester. I was going into the aerospace program. And she was going into bioengineering. We were both a little anxious thinking about money and work. Mom and Dad put money into my account. And Ava made some money hosting at the university. But neither of us were truly satisfied with what we were doing. I was looking into internships. And she started increasing the number of events she was doing. One of the specialists was working in our office and happened to mention that visited university fundraiser. I was half listening, I'll tell you. There was the hottest girl I've ever seen. He told me this caught my attention, oh yes. I supported him, yeah. She looked like a university student or something. But I'd never seen her before, you won't believe it. Graduates lined up to dance with her. I would just like to dance and God take her home. I would die a happy man. Did anyone take her home? I asked. I don't know, there were many attempts. I can tell you that this made my antenna go up. I decided to ask Ava what was going on without seeming too concerned. She was working at an event that evening. Hey kids. I've never asked you this before. But what exactly are you doing at the event? Well, it depends on the event, she said. Sometimes it's like a dinner party. And we just have to communicate. I'm really just here to make sure everything is going smoothly. The caterers are doing their jobs. I'm hanging out with Dad and chatting with donors and alumni and introducing people and all that stuff. Things sounds terrible, I said. She was laughing. It's not fun, I promise. It's work, Ethan. This isn't supposed to be fun. Most people are around Dad's age. But I have to look and act like the person I'm talking to is the most interesting person on the planet. Oh my God, I had no idea. Are they all like this? No, sometimes there are bands, orchestras, dinner. And then dancing. What will it be? She turned away from the mirror where she was applying makeup to her eyes to me. What happened, Ethan? Are you giving me the third degree here? I laughed. No, I was just curious. I have no idea why, I just asked. She turned back to the mirror. It's just a job. She said, boring. I walked away and was scrolling through TikTok when she came over and kissed me. She went to the kitchen and came out with a bottle of water. See you in a couple of hours, she said. Kissing me again and disappearing. I turned on the TV and watched some boxing. I couldn't get a conversation with its specialist out of my head. I got up to get me a beer, walking into the kitchen. I noticed Ava's phone on the counter apparently. She put it down to get a water bottle and forgot. I wondered if she would want this. I thought that I wanted her to have it in case she needed anything. Her car broke down or something. So I decided to take it to her. It would also give me a reason to be there. Although not a very compelling one. The event was held at Lodge on the desert. And I kind of knew the place. I've been there once or twice when I walked inside. It appeared that almost the entire venue was booked for the event. At least the event rooms. I looked into the couple of rooms but saw no sign of Ava. There was music coming from the Palm Room. So I popped in for a quick look. They had a small band playing jazz. And about 50 couples were dancing. And there would have been twice as many on the lawn. It was a big party. One of the employees came over with a tray of champagne glasses and offered me one. No thanks. Do you know any of the guests? I asked. Some, he said. The university uses the halls quite often for events. Do you know who Ava Mace is? Yes, Dr. Mace's daughter. Did you happen to see her around? Yes, he said. Pointing to the other side of the room. Isn't that her? I moved so that I could see where he was pointing. It was her. She was dancing against the wall with someone. I recognized him. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback a few years ago and had a short NFL career. Another graduate, thanks man. I said and started walking around the room. Spinning around so as not to disturb the dancers. As I got closer, I became more and more worried with every step. I expected her to dance with me but not with anyone else. He held her too close. I stopped stunned. And watched for maybe a minute. I was angry. Incredibly hurt and in shock all at the same time. What did she do at these events? Well, to hell with it. I shook off my frozen status and walked up to them. Her eyes were closed when I approached. And her partner, seeing me and perhaps noticing the expression on my face, turned half away from me. Don't worry, dude, I said. I'm just here to deliver her phone. Her eyes widened when she heard my voice. Her mouth dropped open in the shape of a cute little Cheerio. Under different circumstances. I shoved the phone into her hand as I was leaving. I heard it fall to the floor. And she shouted after me. I walked on. Walked out the door and headed to my car, started it. And drove away. I saw her at the entrance looking for me. And she noticed me as I drove out into the street. She took a step forward and I saw her mouth move. Then she turned the corner I just drove along. Almost not realizing where I was. My brain seemed unable to think. And I was just a robot. I stopped at a traffic light and suddenly became angry. A red explosion of rage. And screamed and slammed his fist on the steering wheel. I was vaguely aware that something was trying to reach my consciousness. And I realized it was my phone vibrating in the passenger seat. I looked at it and it was her dark enchantress. My screen said I'll have to change that. I didn't feel enchanted at all. I threw it back on the seat. Now I needed to figure out where I was going. I didn't want to go home, she would come there. And I had no time for her. I pulled into the Circle K, went inside. And bought a large Dr. Pepper in a styrofoam cup. I sat down and drank absent-mindedly. Suddenly I understood. I drove home. Packed up my campsite and camping gear and left. I stopped at the supermarket. Filled my refrigerators with food and drinks. Filled them with ice and drove on. One of my favorite places on the planet is Pooch Ridge Wilderness. I hadn't been to half the places I wanted to go. And I was getting ready to dive into the wild to clear my head and figure out what to do. I decided to let my parents know that I was safe and would not be available. So I sent them a message while I was still in signal range. My father answered, "Okay, have fun." I parked in the lot. Found a nice camp spot about a quarter of a mile away. And found a ranger to let him know where I would be camping. I set up my tent and set up the area the way I wanted. Lit a small fire. And took a sip of the tequila I bought at the store. My head was spinning with a million thoughts. Was this what I saw normal for Ava at these events? Is she doing anything else? What I saw didn't pass my girlfriend's test. But what else does she do? This, of course, occurred to me when she said she was staying with her father after the event. Was she really staying with him? Or was it a convenient lie to keep me in the dark? I didn't know. And the only way to find out was to ask her. But would she lie? I didn't think she'd ever lied to me. And the Ava I knew didn't seem like a liar to me. But I never imagined I'd see her dancing on some guy's leg. I was like a robot without a compass. I felt terrible from the tequila. And I fell into a restless sleep. Having nightmares about Ava doing something and hiding it from me. The next morning I had a bit of a hangover. But breakfast and a couple of ibuprofen soon fixed that. I packed my backpack and headed down the trail. It was beautiful. It was high enough to be cool. And when I went down into the canyon, it was hot enough that when I jumped into the stream, it was just wonderful. I pulled out my wild cleaners and washed myself in the stream. That night was a repeat of the previous one. And I did not gain any clarity about anything any more than before. The next day I headed towards Mount Lemmon. Climbed up a rock ledge and occupied my mind. It was almost dark when I returned. And as soon as I entered the small space, there sat Ava sitting on a rock face in her hands. Bowed down and seemingly crying. I must have made some kind of noise because she looked up and saw me. She jumped to her feet and ran across the camp, rushing at me and almost knocked me off my feet. "Damn you, Ethan," she screamed in my face. Then hugged me like an anaconda before yelling again. "What the hell is wrong with you? You can't just run away. You can't just throw me away." She beat my chest with her fists. I needed to talk. "Why did you do that? How did you find me?" I asked. "Your father told me you were here," she screamed. I got scared, stared, and made him tell me when I came here. "The ranger told me where you were. But you weren't here." She burst into tears and clung to me again, burying her face in my chest. "Where have you been?" I said I was on a hike. "I didn't want to see you, Ava. That's why I came here." This, she screamed. I needed to see you. Why are you not Ava? Stop. I said, stop yelling, let me light the fire. I am hungry. Hungry, you are hungry. She pressed herself against me for another minute, trying to pull herself together. No. And I'm not hungry. I haven't been able to eat for 2 days. Why do you stop? I said. I won't go into details until you pull yourself together and learn to speak like a reasonable person. Now I'll cook something to eat. You'll eat it with me. We'll have time to have a drink, sit by the fire, and talk. Okay, she snorted, wiped her eyes and nodded. All that man of hair swaying fine. I fried bacon. And we had bacon and eggs. She picked at the food first, then ate it greedily and cooked herself 2 more eggs and some more bacon. I think I was hungrier than I thought, she said. I can imagine if you didn't eat for 2 days, I said. I couldn't eat, she said. She felt sick to my stomach all the time. I didn't know what to say to her, so I remained silent. Well, I didn't plan for 2. I said, I'm going to run out of food very quickly. I'll take more, she said. We finished eating, and I pulled out a bottle of tequila and poured a couple of fingers into a tin cup, pouring some for myself. There was a large flat stone by the fire, so I walked over and sat on it. She came and stood in front of me. Step back, she said. I did so. She spread my legs and sat between them, leaning back on me, and we looked at the dancing flames in silence for a minute. It was awkward, so I started. Ava, let me talk. She said, then you can go. Okay. I said, don't tell me any, Ava, I'm not in the mood. I won't, she said. First of all, I want to tell you, Ethan, I have never been with anyone but you since the day I met you. She leaned back and looked at me. Do you believe me? She sensed my hesitation, and her eyes filled with tears. You don't believe me, do you? I'm not saying I don't believe you, I said. Let's just say I believe you temporarily. What does it mean? There was a little heat in her voice. It means I accept what you said, and I want to hear what else you have to say. I told her, whatever you say may make me come back and say I don't believe you, or it may make me come back and say I absolutely believe you. If you don't believe me, then I don't think I have anything to say. She said bitterly, what's the point? It's up to you, I said. She stood up and walked to the edge of the circle of light, then stopped and looked back. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I love you and thought you were the one. I can't be with someone who doesn't trust me. I trusted you, I said. It was you who created the doubt. She bowed her head, seemingly defeated, and disappeared into the growing darkness. I stayed in the desert for 5 days and then went home. I could tell she left immediately. All the little things she had, the pictures, the little lace fabric things, the chargers that she always left in sockets around the house were gone. Her clothes, all her books and papers, the cosmetics that were always on her dressing tables and dressers. Everything was gone. God, that was depressing. You can't be with someone for 2 years and not feel like a part of you left when they left. I didn't feel guilty about it, but it didn't make the house any less lonely. I was willing to listen to her, but I couldn't just act blindly when I had other evidence telling me that things were different than I thought. I existed in some kind of limbo. I did everything I did before she came into my life like a bomb, but it all seemed a little empty. It was as if my world was painted in vibrant colors and suddenly everything became shades of gray. I saw something, heard something, did something, and thought Ava would like it. Then I realized that there was no Ava. It was damn depressing. The only things that kept me sane were school, my family and Toyne. I have always been close to my little sister, and we have become even closer. She constantly communicated with me. I knew she was close friends with Ava, but she never mentioned a word. I could tell Dad was disappointed with how things turned out, but Mom was much more straightforward. Ethan, you're an idiot, she told me about a week after Donovan left. No doubt. But is there any particular idiocy you have in mind? She asked. This girl loves you, she said. I had lunch with her, Ethan. It's not what you think. But she's not going to ask. It's not in her nature. You allow something that is important but doesn't really matter to ruin something beautiful in your life. You need to fix this. Why do I need to fix this? Just. I wasn't the one who broke this relationship. I'm not saying you're to blame. Or at least mostly to blame, she said. I'm telling you it's worth fixing. Even if you have to take the first step. I know you want the best for me, Mom. I told her yes. I know I won't mention it anymore. I got the paid internship I was hoping for at Honeywell. It wasn't a lot of money. But it was more than I'd ever had, and they liked me. 6 months later, I received a job offer while completing my master's degree. We went to the same school and in the same buildings. So I saw Ava from time to time, mostly from afar. If she noticed me, she would wave. And I would always smile at her and give her a thumbs up. Mom and Toyne very discreetly informed me that Donovan was no longer working for her father as a housewife. She was interning at New Vox, working on some kind of specialized oxygen delivery system. Fine, I was proud of her. We didn't talk. But I saw her nearby every time I did this. I realized how much I missed her. And it felt like I was in constant pain. 18 months passed. And the first time we really talked was at graduation. There were just over 100 of us studying engineering. And I was sitting in my chair when someone sat down next to me. I turned around and saw Ava. God. She still took my breath away, if anything. She was even more impressive than the day we met. She gave me a sparkling smile. Hi, Ethan. Congratulations, you did it. You too. Thank you. And congratulations. Did this internship turn into a job offer? They offered me a job, she said. I refused them. Protein Technologies made me a better offer. And this is a much more complex area of activity. What about you? We'll stick with Honeywell, I said. The ceremony started and we couldn't talk anymore. I left later and saw her one more time before the start. She came and sat next to me again. This one was damn long and equally boring. But when it was over, we were both back in our chairs. Mom, Dad, and Toyne were there and surrounded us both, congratulating us. Dad insisted on inviting us all to dinner. Ava arched an eyebrow questioningly. I nodded as non-intrusively as possible. We had a great time. Got a little upset after drinking 3 bottles of wine between us. And Ava said she had to go. I need to walk a little before I go, she said. Ethan, are you coming? I wasn't quite ready to drive either. So I agreed. We were close to campus. And we went there. We walked together. And it was awkward. We made a few inane comments. And she stopped by the fountain, sat down on the bench, and patted the seat next to her. I sat down nervously. She was laughing. Feeling a little trembling. Big boy, I chuckled. Yes. A little. I think I won't eat you, she said. I looked at her doubtfully. Are you sure? She said. I would like to. I asked, is this a metaphor? She nodded. Yes. God, you're a stubborn man, Ethan. I chuckled. Yes, I heard that. Do you mean some specific stubbornness? Or just a general indictment of my character? She smiled. Both. Do you miss me every damn day? I said. She said, oh my God, Ethan. You are my best friend. We were friends before. You know you were my best friend. We hung out all the time. I miss my friend and you. Yes, I assured. Then why the hell didn't you call me? Didn't make the slightest attempt to talk to me. I said. Ethan, I tried. I stalked you. Tried to throw myself at your feet. It didn't end well and I felt awkward calling you. Trying to talk to you. Okay. Can you tell me why you felt awkward? Well, I felt like I let you down. I felt like I let myself down. I know I hid something from you. Like what you did at those university events. Yes. There was an awkward silence. I wonder if you understood my feelings when I walked in. And I'd like to talk about it. But there's a little problem, she said. Okay. What's the problem? Do you think I will lie to you? She asked. Do you really believe this? Look at me, Ethan. I turned a little sideways and looked into those huge brown eyes. Tears floated in them. The setting turned them honey golden. I knew she wouldn't lie. It's not that I think you'll tell me an outright lie. I said. However, I have a little story. Can you leave out some things? Things that might not represent you in the light of the forest. You did it, Ava. I never had a single doubt about you. I never would. I have to tell you, I haven't been completely honest with you or even with myself. I told her about the conversation I had with my colleague. Oh my God, she said. God, why didn't you say anything? Well, I would look paranoid. I was embarrassed. I thought it would make you angry. And I felt that you would be right to be angry. So when I saw that you forgot your phone, I used it as an excuse to go. I didn't expect to find I didn't finish the thought. And she sat there for a minute, obviously thinking about what to say. I had one more thought. When you asked me if I think you would lie to me. No, I don't think you would. My problem is that I never doubted you for a second. But I never had the slightest idea what your role was in these matters events. But you never told me it wasn't entirely a lie. But it wasn't entirely true either. I still don't know. She bit her lip. And I could see her hands shaking as she clasped them together. She sighed. I won't miss anything. I won't lie. I'll tell you everything. Do you want to do it here? What do you suggest? I asked Shah. I want my best friend back, she said. Whether we are lovers or not, it will happen or not. Can we hang out like we used to? I want to come to us to your home. Just hang out and talk to you, be with you. I want to tell you everything. But I'd like it to be in an organic setting. Can I come tomorrow and bring dinner? Yes. I'm fine with that, I said. Ava, what? She looked at me. I just wanted you to know that I missed you. I thought I was a fool. I would do anything for you to ignore all this crap. Move to a hut in the desert. I love you. She immediately hugged me. No, Ethan. You shouldn't feel this way. I would do anything to be with you now. I know this. But I need to make it clear. Do it right. Let's do this, I said. She pulled me up. And I walked her to the car. I opened the door for her. And she turned and looked at me from under her incredibly long and thick eyelashes. Ethan, can I give the key back? I laughed. Pulled the keys out of my pocket. And gave her the house key. Do you remember the security code? Yes, she said. See you tomorrow evening. She stood on her tiptoes. Quickly kissed me and disappeared. When I got home from work, I stopped and bought her favorite Cabernet cheesecake and a yellow rose. Her car was parked in the driveway. And the smell of cooking filled the house. It smelled amazing. The garlic and oregano created a real aroma. I went in and put my bag away and then went to the kitchen. I knew she knew I was there. She would have heard me disabling the security system. But she was busy. She took my breath away. She was wearing a small yellow dress. Her hair was pulled back into a messy bun that showed off her graceful neck. And her shoulders were bare. The dress barely covered her fantastic ass. And she wore strappy platform sandals that showed off a mile of gorgeous legs. I sat down next to her, hugged her. Brought the rose I had and pressed it to her cheek. She looked up and back a little shyly and gave me a small smile. Hi Ethan, the rose is beautiful. Dinner will be ready in 30. Do you need to clean up? Hey beautiful, I said. Yeah. Let me take a quick shower by the way. It smells very tasty. I hugged her and went to clean up. Dinner was as delicious as it smelled. But a little awkward. We talked nonsense. And when we finished, I cleaned up while she poured the wine and took our glasses to the sofa. I sat down next to her and she snuggled close to me. I hugged her and she sighed. It's so nice, God. I missed this, just the opportunity to touch you. Talk to you knowing what you want me to, I said. I've always wanted this. I was miserable, Ava said. The only question is, will we remain unhappy? I'm open to suggestions on how to avoid this, I said. Do you have any suggestions? She asked. Maybe and you. Yes, I'll tell you everything. Perhaps you won't like something. I put my feet on the ottoman and she leaned back, resting her head on my arm behind her and putting her feet on top of mine. I remembered that this was one of her favorite things to do. Should I said, first of all, I have to tell you that I'm not going to lie or hide anything. Okay, I nodded. Fine, Ethan. When I was about 18, I started working as a hostess at university fundraising events where my dad was an administrator. The university needed donations from alumni. You know that, right? I know these things happen. But I have no idea how much of the university's budget comes from tuition and state funding and things like that. And how much comes from donations. 7 of the university's budget comes from endowments. She said it doesn't sound like much, but it's a $1.23 billion budget. Wow, I had no idea. Most people don't anyway. Fundraising is a big deal. I understand that. My job was to make sure the fundraising went smoothly. I tried to get people to write checks. I didn't think you were doing talk. I said no. That's not true, I swear to you, Ethan. Dancing is all I ever did. Okay. It was some dirty dancing, and God. This is humiliating. I kind of led some donors to believe that there was a possibility of more. I feel like a hoe telling you this. But I swear it will never happen. It meant nothing more to me than impressing them. Well, it's kind of unpleasant, admitted Ava. Yes. It is. I never really thought about it, Ethan. I swear, until I looked up and saw the look on your face. Now I have to doubt what you say. I don't think you're being honest with me. If you never thought about it, why did you let me believe that you were just babysitting the waiters? She sighed. I wouldn't be honest with you. She was silent for a minute. I think I wasn't honest with myself. I didn't tell you because I was lying to myself. Telling myself that I was doing a good job. Helping my father, earning money for the university. I think I knew it was shady. So I hid it from myself and from you. I nodded yes. I understand. I try to hide my shortcomings from people. Including myself. I quit doing it that night, Ethan. I'm not very proud of myself for ever going beyond minding the wait staff. As you put it. When that dude you worked with told you this story, why didn't you come face to face with me and tell me about it? It's not easy, I said. I'm in love with you, Ava. I told myself I was paranoid crazy. You can't do anything wrong in my eyes, God. You were perfect. I wanted to punch this guy for making me think you might be doing some shady stuff. Suddenly she began to sob with all her heart. Melancholy convulsed her. Anna wrapped her around me, pulling her towards me. And she released her melancholy. This went on for about an hour. And my emotions were almost as intense as hers. I'm sorry I wasn't perfect. She finally managed to say, damn Ava. I'm far from perfect myself. I was a fool. I don't like what happened, however I was stupid. And you were a little better. We let it almost destroy something beautiful. Trust me, I still think you're perfect. You're human. That's all people do, stupid things. Not a single book or movie would ever be written. I know, she whispered. She felt so bad without you. Ethan, what can I do to get back? What can we do? What are we doing? I said. I was an idiot not to do this a few months ago. I'm not very good at confrontation. I need to work on this. Me too, she said. I was an even bigger idiot. You have no idea how many times I dialed your number but did not press the call button. I watched our text conversations just to hear your voice in my head. I squeezed it well. We'll have millions of conversations in person. She let out a watery laugh. Either way, I'll save the messages. It was a bump in the road. We resumed the friendship we had before. Made love for the first time. Walking slowly down the road, constantly going out. Hanging out together. And that easy intimacy returned. I was a little wary, knowing that I didn't know anything. But she tried to overcome my hesitation. She was as intoxicating as ever. The dizziness of just being in her company felt like someone was slowly casting a spell on you. The feeling of euphoria that came over me was overwhelming. And she was the same provocative, sweet, and gentle girl I met on my first day in Professor Howard's class. Our work was successful. Although we both spent more time at work than we wanted. She returned to our house this time without any reservations and without leaving any of her crap with her father. 18 months after she returned, I knelt in a very nice restaurant, put a ring on her finger and asked her to marry me. She squealed and danced to the applause of our colleagues. Oh my God, yes, I want to marry you so bad, Ethan. She grew serious and sat down again. Admiring her ring, I want a long engagement, she said. I don't want you to just fall in love with me. I mean, I want it. But I want you to trust me like a rock. And I'm still working on it, okay? If you want a long-term engagement, that's fine with me, but not for that reason, Ava. I trust you like a rock, just like you said. I think I've always trusted. I was thinking about some weird. But I guess I always knew what 6 months sounded like. I think 18 months, she said. We agreed on a year. 8 years later, we have 2 tiny Ava clones. One is 4, the other is 2. We bought a house from my dad. And now I come home every day and see 2 tiny girls waiting for Dad on the porch. Their mother will arrive in a minute. And I know that the sight of her will take my breath away, just like the first time I saw her. The girls and I were sitting in a restaurant. It was crowded and loud. There was silence for a moment. Hiccups amid the rock and roll noise. I turned and looked at the door. I knew what caused it, and here it is. She walked over to our booth, and when she sat down, the conversation resumed. She kissed me and turned to the girls. Are mommy's babies having a wonderful day? All was right with the world when it's love. Everything. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.